To begin to understand the main objective of the Soviet Union and the Americans, we must know how to begin this interest. The relationship between the Soviets and the Chinese deteriorated while the United States had a stronger military involvement in Vietnam. China and the Soviet Union had a border war where the United States had a better relationship with the Chinese, while its relationships with the Soviet Union worsened. But the United States and the Soviet Union understood that they should avoid a nuclear war, as well as evade an increase in economic incentives for war and reach a career in the most armed state in which there would be not aimed.
On December 1979, NATO agreed to deploy a land-based cruise and missiles in Europe if the negotiations did not work with Moscow. There were military imbalances, and then Jimmy Carter withdrew the SALT II treaty from the Senate. In 1980, there was an international boycott of the Olympic Games in Moscow. Republicans used foreign and defense policies to attack the US presidency, so that Ronald Reagan then tried a more confrontational approach with Moscow.
After the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962, the two superpowers agreed to install a direct hotline between Washington, D.C. and Moscow, the so-called Red Telephone, enabling leaders of both countries to quickly interact with each other in a time of urgency and reduce the chances that future crises could scale into an all war. Getting the superpowers involved in the war, whether by design or serendipity, helped to create the political condition for Egyptian-Israeli rapprochement. Diplomatic and strategic relations were transformed as Egypt switched alliance from Moscow to Washington. In the short term, Egypt was isolated in the Arab world. For Israel, fear of war, of annihilation fought in two fronts was left. Yet continuing political violence and terrorism.
Soviet support for revolutionary movements in the Third World reflected Moscow's self-confidence of a superpower and its analysis that the Third World was turning toward socialism. Ideological competition ensued with the West and with China. In America, this was viewed as evidence of duplicity. Some claimed that Moscow's support for revolutionary forces in Ethiopia in 1975 killed Detente. Others cited that Soviet rule in 1978 in Angola, where Moscow had previously supplied arms and helped transport Cuban troops to support the Marxists. The perception that Moscow was using arms control to gain military advantage was linked to the Soviet behavior in the Third World. Growing Soviet military superiority was reflected in increasing Soviet influence, it was argued. Critics claimed that the SALT strategic arm limitation talk process failed to prevent the Soviets from deploying the multiple independently targetable warheads on large intercontinental ballistic missiles, threatening key American forces.
In conclusion, the military confrontation was not the most important aspect of the Cold War, but it was the most visible, since it gave rise to important international pacifist movements. Also, more significant was the policy of two opposing blocs that divided the world into two camps, pro-communist and anti-communist. But above all, the Cold War created the European community, which over time proved capable enough to occupy a place among the greats. Also, in the process of carrying out this video, we as a team evidenced a challenge when looking for an academic source that would help us to support our argument. That is why we implemented the advisory of university database performed during the class about how to search was done, developing a new ability to search journals and academic articles using cable words like and help us to associate the search of the subject to be treated and the position we take. This also made us to reinforce our research and information analysis skills necessary to continue our training as students of international business management.